Hey there. Good to see you guys. It's been a minute. It's great to be back. This is Anita Gibson, coach, speaker, educational strategist. And today, the series that I am starting is Fantastic Failures of an Average Mom. And I just feel like that kind of resonates with a number of us in some of the places where we are right now. So, let me do one thing before we get started. I'll make sure that I am showing up. Oh, let's see if I'm live here. Make sure that yep, there we go. That's what I needed to know. Awesome. Sure that all right, so it's really good to be here today and to talk about what irritations tell us. Yeah, there we go. Hold on a sec, it's talking again. All right, what irritations tell us about ourselves. So this weekend we went out to dinner and we were at one of those hibachi grills where they, the chef comes out and he cooks the food for you and you're sitting there and you're watching everything. And there was this precious little family sitting across from us. It was a husband and a wife and a little boy of maybe about 6, maybe 5, and his little sister who was about, I think she was 1. And dad was sitting with the little boy and mom was sitting with the little girl. And the little girl's just sitting in her little chair and she's just quiet and everything's cool. You could tell she was kind of the laid back one. Well, the little boy was quite different. He was asking all kinds of questions. Oh, his dad was, trying to keep up with him, trying to kind of keep him, in control. But you could see there was like this battle going on between dad and the son, because this son was very talkative. And he just kept talking. And dad would, you could see him over at the other end going, shh, or, I'll tell you about that later. And so it just tickled me to death because it reminded me of me. And one of our children was very, very talkative. And I just remember how that talking really, really was irritating. I remember trying to shut it down and trying to bring it into control. And some of those, it is needed, it can't just be all over the place. But I just remember that I would be anxious going out into public with this child because they, talked a lot and they talked all the time and they talked to anybody and they asked some interesting questions sometimes. And so I prayed and I said, okay, God, should I say something? And so I said to this young man, I said, your son, he likes to talk a lot, huh? And he just laughed. He was like, oh yes, it's so hard to, contain him. And his sister, she's so quiet. But he is, he is off the chain. Hey, good morning, Patricia. And I said, he says, is it that obvious that I'm over here struggling with him? I said, no, it's not. I'm not judging you in any way. You just remind me of me. I remember when our kids were that age and remembering trying to control one that was very talkative. And so the Lord allowed me to begin to share some things, with them. And at the end of the conversation, we greeted each other. It was just a real blessing to be able to just pour a little bit in, seeing that, watching that irritation that parent was trying to manage, not fully understanding that the reason why his son talks so much is because it's a gift. It's a gift in the raw. It's a gift that needs to be disciplined. It's a gift that needs to be developed, but nonetheless, it's a gift. And so what I said to him is, if you don't become the person that he can come and talk to, he will find someone else. And so as parents, we have to figure out, excuse me, ways to be able to see the beauty of our child, especially in the midst of irritation. So why was I irritated when this child talked all the time? Was it anything really wrong with her talking? Or was it that I needed to be in control? Or was it that I was so busy I didn't want to focus my mind on what she was saying because I didn't think what she was saying was that important? It could have been a number of those things. But that irritation, that thing I wish would go away, was actually an indicator for me of an area that God was giving me an opportunity to grow in. So let's talk about irritations. Do you have a child, excuse me, that rubs you the wrong way? Good morning, Keisha. Do you have a child, do you have a grandchild that just rubs you the wrong way? It's just, they're always like getting on your last nerve. Well, we had 3 children. Starfinder, yes. We had 3, and each one had their own special way of getting under my skin. And I thought the solution was to control them, to change them. One of our children was a talker. One of our children was just straight up lazy. Another of our children they did everything really slow, at a much slower pace than I moved, and it was irritating. And in my brain, I would just be so frustrated and stressed out because of these things that the kids had that irritated me. But eventually I began to learn that their irritations were the gateway to my next step, my next level in my life, in God. And when I started looking at it like that, I began to appreciate, or at least understand, what was going on. Because the child who was lazy, I don't know how I could have made that a positive. That was just a struggle for them. And so we had to keep working with them to get more diligent to, hey there, Freddie, how you doing? Good morning, Dr. Marvin. To get more diligent, we had to do things to help him become more organized. But that child who was kind of lazy back then, he's very laid back even now. Just a easy, laid back kind of guy. And I didn't realize that he was still showing me a part of who he was. And so what I want you to know, Mom, today is, if you would be willing to take that thing that irritates you the most about your child, you will find that that is the place that God is standing and waiting for you for your next upgrade. The child who talked and talked and talked, when I realized that that was the place of my next upgrade, good morning, Laverne, I was able to start to listen to what she had to say. I began to realize that what she has to say is important. And yes, there are boundaries. So for her, we had quiet times when there was no talking going on. You didn't have to take a nap. I don't care what you do, but we are not talking. Because I needed, some space sometimes. But I began to honor that raw gift that was in her. And instead of being upset or frustrated about the talking, I was able to begin to see, oh God, you have a gift in this child. This talking has a purpose. And so I needed to find ways for her to be places where talking was okay. Like, play groups and joining debate clubs and doing community service and those kind of things where she was greeting people and that kind of stuff. And so I began to give her places where the talking could be exercised without slapping the hand and saying, be quiet and sit down. Although I had days when, I had to go in the bathroom, and I think I've shared this before, and just close the door because I wanted to say so bad, shut up, But that wouldn't have been edifying. It wouldn't have helped anything. And I wanted her to talk, and I wanted her to talk to me. I didn't want her to need to find someone else who thought what she said was important. And so that is what I need you to know about the irritation. The very thing that it comes to mind right now that bothers you the most, that you think is about the other person, you think is about your child, or you think is about whoever, because this really applies to everyone. That very irritation is an indication that God is coming, that he has a work that he wants to do in you. And the moment, good morning, Tani, the moment that you decide that you're going to begin to look inside when the irritation comes, instead of pointing the finger, instead of trying to control the circumstances or control your child, you will find that God has been waiting there with a very special gift. The gift he had for me with that talkative child was the gift of patience. It was the gift of honor. I learned to honor who she was. She didn't have to be like me or do it the way that I did it. I learned that I had to slow down my life because I only had one shot at this parenting thing, and I had to make sure I listened, that she knew mommy heard her and that mommy was interested in what she was saying. With the child who did everything so slow, you have one of those children, you tell everybody, okay, in 10 minutes we're leaving. And when you are putting your coat on and got your purse in your hand and you're about to walk out the door, they don't even have their clothes on. And it's so frustrating. And they do everything like that. Everything is just at a slower pace. That can be extremely frustrating, especially if you are the opposite, and I was. And so in my brain, it was like, what is wrong with this child? We need to do something about this. It doesn't make any sense that everything is done so slow, from the schoolwork to the housework, until I began to understand that God has purpose for slow. And I realized that he gave me an example that I was able to share with her, because she began to feel like I must be dumb or something's wrong with me. I do everything at a slower rate than everybody else. But we were able to share with her that if she had a sickness and she didn't know what it was, but they went and took x-rays and they put those x-rays up, there's a doctor who comes in who does things very quick, like a rabbit, like mom, like me, would come in and oh yeah, you're good, and missed that cancer that was sitting over there. Good morning, Greta. But the doctor who did things at a slower pace would naturally take time, go looking through each of the quadrants, and that doctor would be the one who would find the cancer and be able to give me a diagnosis. And so I asked her, if you were sick, which doctor would you rather have? The one who did it fast, who got it done, or the one that took their time and was able to see details that others did not see? That was a light bulb that turned on for her and for us, to begin to realize and understand that there is beauty in slow. That there is beauty in people who have an eye for detail. That there is a purpose, that God is going to use that. And so I had to begin to stop berating her for being slow. I had to give her some tools and some things to help her so that that wasn't a hindrance for her. But I had to begin to understand that God literally made her that way because the purpose he had for her in the future meant she needed to be detail oriented. And the only way you can be detail oriented is, in some other people's minds, is you have to be slow. And once we understood that, I was able to see the beauty of the individual. That child taught me that everybody has a gift. And that's where my book Starfinder comes from. That every child has beauty to them. And usually the thing that irritates us the most has something to do with the gift that God has given them. And so as I began to understand that, as I began to see the beauty of who she was, I have to tell you guys, I have to be honest. I had some damage control to do. Because I had not been taught, I had not been, I did not have an understanding of the beauty of the individual. I did not have an understanding of how you look at who that child is, even through the irritations, and you begin to support and encourage and discover who they really are and the purpose that God has for those very irritations that they have. There's a purpose for them, and there's a purpose for you. And so today, as you are going about your day and that irritation pops up again and you're about to say something or you're about to do something, I encourage you to stop just a minute and ask two questions. God, what are you saying? And what do you want me to do? And I always say this, never ask the questions, why me? Why this? Why now? Because those are invalid questions that make you an invalid. Rather ask, what are you saying, God? And what do you want me to do? And I guarantee you, if you ask those questions before you respond to the irritations, you are going to be amazed at the things that God will give you, that he's been wanting to give you. They're coming. I'm Anita Gibson, coach, speaker, educational strategist, and I am so excited to be able to share all of my faults and failings and every way I have messed up as a mom, in the hope that you guys won't have to go through some of the heartache and trial and error that I went through. Because moms, you are the most wonderful, amazing people in the whole wide world. You hold the whole world together. If it's not for a mom, where would we be? And your children don't need anybody else but you. So I wanted to tell you guys one more thing. I have a book called Starfinder. I would love for you to go pick up a copy. You can get it on Amazon, or you can order it at bit.ly/Be a Starfinder. And it has lots of more strategies in there that will help you to be able to find the star in your child. The name of the book is Starfinder. And it's on Amazon, or you can get it at bit.ly/Be a Starfinder. Well, you guys have an amazing day, and I will see you on Thursday to talk about some strategies for how to turn those irritations into blessings. Take care. I love you.